Well, joining us now is Thiruvananthapuram MP Shashi Tharoor. Mr. Tharoor, thank you for speaking with us on India Development Debate Direct. Mr. Tharoor, let me begin by speaking about what we saw in the Rajya Sabha today, where 25 Congress MPs were not present for the voting of the Triple Talaq bill. We saw this with the RTI amendment bill as well, where the NDA has walked away with passing two legislations that the opposition has vociferously spoken about. Has the opposition pretty much disintegrated in its last bastion as well in the Rajya Sabha?
Well, to be honest, I'm a member of the Lok Sabha, so I literally have no access to what's going on in the Rajya Sabha. I know from the media just as you do, so I'm not the right person to answer that question. But I'm not convinced that is totally the case. However, there are certainly some difficulties and problems as manifest in the two bills you mentioned. We would have hoped to put up a tougher fight on those two bills, and that was certainly the intention when the bills came to the Rajya Sabha. But the BJP has been relentless in its efforts, and I think that this has been a sobering development. But beyond that, I can't tell you what happened, whether your numbers of 25 are accurate.
I get that.
Whether there were special reasons why some couldn't be there. I just don't know.
Let me not let you get away on a technicality. Yes, you are a Lok Sabha member of Parliament. This took place in the Rajya Sabha. But I'm talking about the bigger picture, where Ghulam Nabi Azad, for example, today, put his speech forward. A lot of people spoke. The JDU walked out. Some have supported. It's about floor management. And at the end of the day, it reflects the situation that the primary opposition party is in right now. Isn't that correct, sir? Two bills that you pushed to stop
on the bigger picture, I would agree with you that on the bigger picture, I would certainly agree with you that we have gone through a couple of months where the party has certainly conveyed an impression of drift, of rudderlessness, which I think many are at pains to deny, but the evidence for it is not just in one or two bills lost. These things can happen at any time, but rather in the overall sense in the party of a lack of clear direction and clear direction in terms of action. So, I mean, direction in terms of where we're going and direction directing people to do what needs to be done, neither of which is happening very much, and that's been the major concern. So when I spoke out on the need for the party to settle its leadership crisis or leadership vacuum without further delay, that was the reason I did so, because honestly at this point, when I hear daily stories and rumors of Congress stalwarts and colleagues and friends rumbling in their discontent and in some cases even leaving, as we saw today with one senior member,
Sanjay Singh,
that becomes for me a matter of worry, because obviously a firm, decisive and positively sort of working leadership at the top would be able to stem such a flow. My gut feeling about this is that we need to end the protracted delay in naming an interim president. We need to move to a process that will give us a legitimized and acceptable and credible figure to lead the party.
I will come to that.
Be an electoral process.
Mr. Tharoor, I will come to that in just a minute. And I know that you have given an interview this Sunday to a news agency where you've talked about this point, and I want to talk to you about it in detail. But I'm just coming back a little bit to this parliament session for the simple reason that so far in the first 5 years as well, there were literally only two arenas where the opposition voice could be heard. One in part was the Supreme Court, if there was strong legal standing to speak out against government policy, and the other was the Rajya Sabha, where the NDA didn't have the numbers. Technically, they don't have the numbers even now. But the fact is, this is an extended session and two very difficult bills have been pushed through. How does this augur for legislation in the next 5 years to come?
Well, I think what we're seeing is, you're right that technically the NDA doesn't have the numbers in the Rajya Sabha yet, though they're very much closer to it than they were in the previous Rajya Sabha. But the fact is that they're able to either cajole or cudgel a number of opposition parties who are theoretically neutral, that is, they're not part of either UPA or NDA, and some of them have been vulnerable to the blandishments of the BJP. The BJP has also, as you know, been provoking some defections. We've had 4 Rajya Sabha MPs from Telugu Desam switching wholesale en masse to the BJP, which has increased their numbers faster than they normally would have been able to expect. So given all of that, the number of votes the BJP actually needs to get is relatively modest, and I'm afraid it does augur ill for the opposition's ability to stop any legislation in the upper house. The one final refuge will be our ability to use the upper house to prevent them bludgeoning through a constitutional amendment that we don't agree with, because that's the one last bulwark. They won't get 2/3 in the Rajya Sabha. But otherwise, 2/3 in the Lok Sabha is not at all a problem for them now. And I do worry about the extent to which they may seek to remake India in the image of their policies and wishes, which may not correspond very much to what the silent majority in India wants, because we mustn't forget that the BJP has swept to this amazing record of success on just 37% of the vote.
Let me come to the other point about senior Congress leaders, or a large number of Congress and opposition leaders moving to the BJP. They're literally on an acquisition spree. What does that mean for the Congress party at this time? And as long as the drift continues, which you were referring to, do you see this as being damaging in the long term if you finally have lesser and lesser prominent politicians in the fold?
Well, my personal view is that the Congress party's strength is not just in the interest of the Congress party. It's in India's interest and the interest of Indian democracy, because there have to be alternative ideas to the majoritarian view that we have seen the BJP propounding for the last 5 years and a bit. We must have a view that stands up and speaks up for an inclusive India, that respects and values our diversity as a strength rather than something to be ashamed of, that embraces people of different religions, castes, creeds, genders and orientations in a way that makes them feel as much at home in this country as the majority community so-called. And all of this, to my mind, is what the Congress party is all about. We are the party of inclusive India, and I don't think that Indian politics can do without us. Now, it so happens we've had an electoral setback, or 2 electoral setbacks in the last 2 general elections. But I do not believe that the Indian public has completely written off the message of the Congress party, which is actually a profoundly important message because it emerges from the freedom struggle. When India divided at the time of partition, the people who said that religion should be a determinant of nationhood created Pakistan. That was the idea of Pakistan. The remaining nationalist leaders said, no, ours will be a country for everybody. That was the idea of India. For the first time, that idea is challenged now. And therefore, I think the Congress has to be strong to be able to robustly defend these ideas.
Let me come to the point you've been making about...
So no, I'm not in despair for the long term. We need them.
Okay. Let me come to the point that you've been making about how the party can find a way forward, and you suggest, among other things, removing all the members of the top core committee from their positions, having fresh elections, starting from scratch. Can you expand on that idea, what you'd wish to see, and whether anyone within the party is actually listening to what you've been saying?
Well, listen, this used to be the practice in the old days. That is, that the Congress Working Committee was an elected body to which indeed the President is free to add special invitees and permanent invitees whose presence in the Working Committee he or she deems indispensable. But now what we've got for some time is that even the Working Committee itself is appointed like the special and permanent invitees, and so therefore the entire body consists of people handpicked by the President of the day. Now, there may be good arguments for that, but the point in the present moment is that the need to renew the credibility and legitimacy of the leadership of the party suggests that at least the core committee members need to be elected, and of course the special and permanent invitees will continue to be invited by the president to represent those voices in the party that perhaps have not won the elections to the working committee. But the logic would then be that the committee comes in as the choice of the party workers, as leaders who have been sanctified, as it were, by the support of the party workers, and that gives them a certain clout and authority to assist the president in directing the party in the right way. As far as the president himself or herself is concerned, I think that any president would gain immeasurably in legitimacy, as Sonia Gandhi did when she won the presidency in 2000 by trouncing Jitendra Prasad in an election. That gave her a certain authority that was different from merely being the appointed president by a smaller committee. And I think that authority is what helped her lead the party to a decisive victory 4 years later in the general elections. So I am arguing that there is a strong case to be made for a process of elections. I'm not speaking against anybody. Everybody in the present working committee should be eligible to run again. My point is that if we actually have a process that will both produce a useful result but equally will galvanize public interest in the party and inspire the voters as well as the workers, then it's a win-win all along.
You know, you also have another interesting idea about a presidential kind of race for the top post of Congress president, which would get voters also involved and excited. What do you think that could look like?
Well, look, I think we've had a very interesting model in the Conservative Party election in Britain. There was a party in disarray, its prime minister resigns, but they immediately launched into a process in which a dozen people put their names forward. The list was whittled down to finally 2 by a series of parliamentary votes by the MPs. That's the way the British do it. Here it could be AICC votes. And then once you've whittled it down to 2, the Conservatives sent theirs out to 16,000 party members. In India, that would be a cumbersome task, as party members are much more than that. But we could turn to the larger electoral body of the PCC delegates, which would be about 10,000 people across the country. And if they then had 2 people to choose between or 3 people to choose amongst, you may actually have a choice that the losers would accept because it would have been sanctified in this way. The problem has always been the perception in the Congress party that anyone other than the Gandhis could not emerge to lead the party because then disgruntled elements would reject that choice. An election would legitimize a choice in a way that nobody could possibly object to. So for all these reasons, I am a passionate advocate, as Rahul Gandhi himself once was, of elections to settle these leadership positions. And I would love to see that being attempted, because in many ways the constitution simply says, the party constitution, that the working committee will appoint an interim or provisional president, and then the AICC will elect the permanent president. I'm just simply suggesting we enlarge the existing membership of the AICC to accommodate the PCC delegates, who are in any case deemed to be part of an expanded AICC when required, and let them vote to give us the kind of result that nobody can sneeze at or sneer at.
But in the same breath, Mr. Tharoor, while you talk about a fresh election, you also, advocate Priyanka Gandhi taking on the top spot. A couple of days after your quotes,
I simply said that if she were.
Yeah, Captain Amrinder Singh came forward and said, yes, that's a great idea. Isn't that contradictory?
No, there is a difference, because Captain Amrinder Singh is speaking about an outcome and I'm speaking about a process. I have not spoken for any individual or against any individual. I've just spoken about a process. I did say that if someone like Priyanka Gandhi were to throw a hat into the ring, she would herself be quite likely to win, and at the same time doing it through an election process would give her added clout and credibility and legitimacy. That was my point. I didn't say that she should be the desired outcome, because there's no point having a process if you already know the outcome you want. I'm just saying the process should produce the outcome. But in any case, the question seems slightly academic, as she has ruled herself out. So we still need a process because we don't know who else is going to come and rule themselves in.
That's a fair point, but you know, the reason why I bring it up as well, Mr. Tharoor, is because one of the big changes perhaps that the Congress party needs to make is this distance from dynasty. It has almost become an impediment really to any kind of a leadership. Do you think for some time it's important that you know, the Gandhi family keeps a distance from the top leadership and control of the party, which it still de facto has one way or the other, even currently?
No, listen, I mean, it's not me who's saying that, it's Rahul Gandhi who said, number one, that he wishes to take accountability for the defeat, and number two, that he doesn't feel any member of the Gandhi family should succeed him. So he was the one saying that there should be somebody else to take on this challenge at this point. So I think whatever I've said follows from that conclusion. If he had actually listened to our entreaties to remain, to withdraw his resignation and seek to revive the party, we would have all been very happily backing him. But it's once he has taken himself out of the fray that we have no choice but to find a solution and find a person. And that person, in my view, is best found through an electoral process rather than being appointed by an appointed committee.
Okay, I'm making a larger point, Mr. Tharoor, because you just mentioned that, you know, you were part of the team which entreated Rahul Gandhi not to turn away. I'm saying, is the Indian voter in some sense becoming allergic, and I'm putting this word in quotes, to the Gandhis at the helm of the Congress party? And is the only hope for revival having as much distance from them as possible?
I don't agree with that, simply because we still got almost 20% of the electorate backing us with Rahul Gandhi's leadership, and the previous election was also about 19 point something percent. So you're looking at a fifth of Indian voters who like and support the Congress party led by the Gandhis. What percentage of those voters would only vote for a party led by the family? One doesn't know.
Yeah.
We can only find out by seeing a phase in which the party is led by someone else. But the fact is that if we take the reality of the party that Sonia Gandhi has built and brought to this point, that already attracts a decent base in order to aspire to better. So 20% means that a fairly modest increase, even in the single digits, could put us in a credible position to form a coalition government. And an increase in double digits could give us a chance to do what the BJP has done. So we are far from being down and out. We are still the only party other than the BJP with a national footprint.
Yeah.
We're still the only party that includes people of every stripe and every corner of the country. And that's why it seems to me that to write off the party or to say that it's being rejected because of dynasty, we have very, very effective parties in many parts of the country that have the same dynastic footprint and are still winning elections in their regions.
So
we happen to be winning or doing well nationally.
Okay, so at what point, Mr. Tharoor, is the Congress going to sort of shake itself out of this slumber or shock and start really asserting itself? Because we've seen in the last couple of months what has happened in Karnataka, what has happened in Goa, their leaders leaving left, right and center. Is there sort of a scorched earth policy at the background of this, that let the worst happen and then we will build up from scratch? What really is the plan?
Well, I don't know. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting around proposing a different plan, would I? I mean, the fact is, I don't know what the small number of people of the party leadership at the moment have been thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm simply expressing a view that I've heard repeatedly from large numbers of Congress members, including elected officials from various parts of the country. It's got nothing to do with either me personally or with my state, where the Congress is thriving, having won pretty much all but one seat of the seats it contested. It's about the national picture and about the institutional strength of the party that we all care about. That's all I'm talking about. And if there is a plan, it's been kept unrevealed to many of us, including elected MPs of the party. If there is a plan, the public and the media don't seem to be aware of it. So I'm just suggesting a plan as a way forward And I think at least in the process, if we've started a bit of conversations, a bit of churning, a bit of brainstorming in the party, that will have served a useful purpose. It may actually provoke some action that could end this stalemate period that we've been living through for the last 2 months.
Absolutely. Thank you for speaking with us, Mr. Tharoor. Important voice within the party who we're not sure if he's being listened to or not, but he has told us he's not in the loop of what the party is planning. We're keeping an eye on this story and the developments. Of course, the Triple Talaq bill passing is another big blow for the Congress and the opposition because they're not even trying. Is it a good thing that the Triple Talaq bill has passed? Well, yes, if it brings more justice to Muslim women and is not used as a tool of discrimination. Is that the point? No. The point is that you need an active, alive and kicking opposition in this country to sustain democracy, and we hope to see that soon. On that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening on the India Development Debate. Do come back tomorrow.